Center, and every semester I help out the School of Education by giving this workshop about the Praxis writing. Before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the University Writing Center because that is where I work, and I want you to know about the service that we offer U of L students. If you haven't already muted your microphone, go ahead and do that. Yeah, I was getting some back channel, but I think that just cut out. Great. So I'm assuming everyone can hear me. I'm talking, and if you have questions, try to put them in the chat unless it's a moment where I open it up to questions, just because it might disrupt the flow a little bit. It's not quite like a classroom where I can see people raising their hands. And in just a second, I'm going to share my screen, and when I do that, I cannot see anything else. I can't see like your facial reactions or the chat. That's why it's great that Wanda's here so she can kind of manage the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my PowerPoint. All right, so like I said, first we're going to talk a little bit about the Writing Center, and that's where I'm pulling a lot of my resources that I'll give you at the end of the presentation. And I also want to talk a little bit about what a Writing Center appointment is. So the University Writing Center is located in Ekstrom Library, and we are not currently there right now. As you can probably tell, it doesn't look like I'm in a writing center, but you can still contact us via our phone number, our website, and our email address. And I'm going to give you a copy of this PowerPoint so you don't have to worry about writing things down. So what is the University Writing Center? We serve everyone in the U of L community, including undergraduate students, graduate students, faculty, and staff. I think maybe some of you aren't enrolled at U of L now. So if you're not a student or faculty or staff, unfortunately, we can't work with you, but I hope that you do enroll in the fall and you can come and use our services. We work with writers at any point in the writing process. So one of the misconceptions of writing centers, or maybe a worry that you have before you go to a writing center, is that you have to have a completed draft of something. Whether you're coming in for a class, you think, oh, well, you have to have the paper written before you can get help. Or if you wanted to get help on like a resume or something, you might think that you have to have a resume to bring in order to get feedback. But we actually work with writers at any point in the writing process. So if you'd like to get help before you start an assignment for a class or something like a resume, you can come in and just kind of talk through it and brainstorm with one of our consultants. That being said, you can come in when you have a partial draft of something or a full draft, like I was talking about earlier. So it's not just a place that you come in to get help on writing that is almost finished. It's a place where you can come to get help on writing at any point in the process. So like I alluded to, you can bring in any type of writing to the Writing Center. It doesn't have to be writing for a class. So today we're talking about writing for the Praxis, and in a few minutes I'm going to give some suggestions about how the Writing Center can help you prepare for studying for the Praxis exam, the writing portion of it. So you can bring in resumes, class assignments, and we can help you with writing for the Praxis. Right now, we are operating what we call our virtual writing center. So we aren't doing in-person appointments in Ekstrom Library, but we are offering appointments online. We have a live video chat option, and we have written feedback options, and then we also have online resources that you can access on your own. So the first option for appointments is a live video chat, and this is a 50-minute appointment. That's a video chat with one of our consultants, and you can schedule an appointment on our website, and the website will walk you through that. And like I said, you have to be a U of L student or faculty or staff. So you'll need your ULink username and password to log into our system. But once you do that and select your appointment, you can upload or copy and paste your writing and your assignment. And during your appointment, your consultant will ask you about your concerns, read through the assignment and the draft with you, offer advice, and ask questions. So it's interactive. You'll both be looking at your assignment or task, and you'll both be reading the writing that you've already started or doing brainstorming. So you can talk. It's similar to like a Zoom session or a Google Hangout or something like that, but you can see in the picture, there'll be the text, and then you'll also see and hear the consultant, and they'll be able to see and hear you. The other type of appointment that we have this summer, and we'll also have in the fall, are 50 minutes of written feedback. So for these appointments, you do not have to be available at the time you scheduled your appointment, but that is the time that the consultant is going to spend giving you feedback. So you'll schedule an appointment for a specific time. When you do that, you'll upload your draft, your assignment prompt, or give us a description of the task, like the Praxis prompts, and whatever questions and concerns you have. At the time of your appointment, your consultant is going to read your draft, compose a response that includes questions, comments, suggestions, praise, and advice, depending on the type of concerns that you had and depending on the type of draft that you upload. And then you'll get an email back with that feedback. So those are the two ways you can get an appointment in the Writing Center right now and in the fall, even though we're not open for in-person appointments. Our goal is to always help you as the writer with your current project and offer strategies to help with future writing tasks. So we're not an editing service. Even if you're doing the written feedback option, we're not going to be editing your paper for you. We're going to be giving you substantive and constructive feedback on your writing. So we want you to obviously improve whatever writing task you're doing at this moment, but also use that moment to give you some skills and strategies and help you learn more about your own writing process and writing in general, so you can apply that to future writing that you are going to be encountering. And like I said, we do have some resources on our website. At the end of my presentation today about Praxis, I have the PowerPoint to give you, and I'll give you some links to these different types of resources on our website that are most specific to the Praxis writing. So like I said, you can schedule an appointment online on our website. It's just louisville.edu/writing center, and you click on appointments. If you need help with that, we do have a Microsoft team called the Writing Center Virtual Front Desk. You can call us. At this point, you have to leave us a voicemail and we'll call you back because we're not in the office, but we are monitoring our voicemails. And in the fall, we'll be back. At least our staff will be in the office, so we can help you if you want to stop by the Writing Center. There's lots of different policies and information on our website that I didn't want to get into about the online appointments. So read through those. Either there's one specific to the written feedback and one specific to the live chats, just so you know kind of what's going to be going on with your appointment and what you need to do, when you need to upload things and things like that. And then this summer, we're open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we also have a waiting list. We've been quite busy this summer, but you can add yourself to the waiting list for each day and hopefully get in if there's a cancellation. All right, before we move into specifically Praxis things, does anyone have any questions about the Writing Center? And I apologize, I'm just looking at my PowerPoint. I can't see anything in the Microsoft Teams if anyone's put in any questions. Wanda, are we good?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm watching it, Cassie, okay. And I don't see anything.
All right, cool. I think I'm gonna have to get, I feel fairly comfortable with the format for these online workshops, but I think I'll need lots more practice before I'll feel 100% comfortable with it. And I know that, this is probably gonna be the format going forward.
Let me tell you this, Cassie, real quick. If I see where we have a question in the middle, I don't want to interrupt you, so I will go where you can see me, and I will kind of try to wave and flag you, okay? So that you can stop when you're ready, but then you know that we have a question.
I can't see anything other than my PowerPoint.
You know what?
It's
I'll just say
disappeared.
Cassie. Just say Cassie, and then you stop whenever it's good for you to stop. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the first thing is I want to get a sense of what you already know about the Praxis and what you already know about timed writing and kind of what you want to get out of the workshop. I've done this workshop several times, but everybody might be in a different place. So I just want you to take 2 minutes and free write about these 3 questions. The questions are, what do you know about the format and expectations for the Praxis case? What strategies have been successful in the past for timed writing, specifically timed writing exams? And what do you want to learn from today's workshop? So you can grab your phone, type something in, pull out Microsoft Word on your computer, or just jot something down on a piece of paper. and then I'll just ask a couple people to share. So I've got 11:41 on my watch, and we'll come back at 11:43, 11:44. All right, so first question, what do you know about the format and expectations for the Praxis case? Does anyone, you can either speak up or put it in the chat, have knowledge of what the writing portions of the Praxis case are?
We have nothing in chat just yet.
Okay. Most of the time when I do these workshops, people pretty much come in so they learn about it. So if you don't, if that's what we're starting, that's all right.
And I honestly believe that's where we are, Cassie, because I'm not saying maybe someone has already taken it, but I think most of them, they don't have a clue what to expect, would be my guess. Yes, people are shaking their heads.
All right, great.
So actually, I have taken it before.
Okay.
And I know that it's 3 parts to it. So you got the first part, which is multiple choice. And it's pretty much like grammar, fixing the sentences and different things like that. And then the second 2 parts of it is 2 essay form kind of questions. One prompt is, I believe, 2-sided, and you pick a side and pretty much stay on that side. And then the other essay question is like persuading someone.
All right, who is speaking?
Hope.
Thank you, Hope. That was a really, really good summary. So yeah, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about today, except for I won't be going over the multiple choice part of that. I'm only going to be talking about the writing. Okay, then this is a question that many of you should have an answer for. So what strategies have been successful in the past for timed writing? And again, you can put it in the chat or speak up. We're just, looking for some things to get our juices flowing here.
Okay, and we've got some comments in here, but basically it's people don't recall. Someone knows that it's scary,
Yeah.
they've never taken the test. So yeah.
Okay. So things that you've done that have worked in studying for like exams where you have a writing portion, where you have essays or short answers. Anybody recalling anything that you've done?
So I don't want to be the only one to talk, but one of the strategies is I make sure that when I'm reading the prompt, that I answer all the questions in the prompt, and make sure that I'm on the right side of whatever the prompt says. Like, is this an argument, or how I need to go about the writing?
Is that Hope again?
Yes.
Okay.
This
Thanks.
is Alicia.
Alicia.
I like to do like a skeleton outline. So like as I'm
Okay.
going, what I need to put and to make sure I hit all the points. So it's not like I'm fully writing it, but kind of my ideas jot down and I can check it off.
Okay. Those are two good strategies.
Letitia also says read the questions before answering the question.
Okay. Yes,
She said I'm reading the questions before reading the passage.
Reading the questions before reading the passage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And those are all things we're going to be talking about today. And the point about reading the question before reading the passage, you basically already are going to know the general questions before you're starting the test. And so that's one way we can prepare for the praxis, by knowing exactly what they're going to ask, so you can actually dive in and not have to really think about what exactly they're asking you to do when you get there on test day. Thank you all for sharing. Those of you who spoke up, and also those of you put into the chat. Okay, so what do you want to learn from today's workshop? I'm getting that many of you just need a basic overview of what's on the test. Other questions that you have? Is there anything in the chat, Wanda?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I think I'm learning that they wait to see who responds, and then or it comes to me late. Maybe I get it late, but yeah. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that was somebody joining. Learning how to identify tricky questions.
Tricky questions, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's Hope again. I need to learn how to answer the question, but kind of just get all my thoughts together quicker, than just kind of rambling and just writing whatever I think it's right. And usually it's like super long and I want to fit everything in, but it's not organized enough.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
We have more, Cassie. Learning. Okay, I said that one. How do you support your sources? How can I become successful by taking this workshop? And a strategy to write argument essay.
Great. All right, I think we're going to be able to cover all those questions as we move forward.
And are there keywords to use in your essay? Sorry.
Cool. No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so Hope earlier gave us a really great overview of the 3 sections that have to do with writing in the exam. So you've got the selected response, which you'll get 40 minutes for, which is basically multiple choice. There's going to be questions involving usage, sentence correction, revision in context, and research skills. And then there's an argumentative essay and source-based essay. And since I'm from the Writing Center and it's all about composing, I'm going to be talking about composing the essays. There is a really great study guide on the ETS website that I pulled the majority of my information from. I have never taken the Praxis case exam. I have taken exams similar, like the GRE, but I can't say from direct experience that I've taken these exams. I can look at these types of writing and recognize very similar things in other types of writing. And like I said, the essays that I had to write for the GRE. But I would definitely recommend downloading this study guide if you have not done so already. And this is actually this is a hyperlink in the PowerPoint. So when you get the PowerPoint, you can just go to this slide and click on it.
Let me tell you this too real quick, Cassie. We have a couple people who've chimed in and said they're English learners. They usually think in Spanish before they write it in English, and they want to know what strategy they can use to become a better writer and pass the test. So we do have a few of those as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start with talking about the argumentative essay. The description of the argumentative essay is that you are supposed to draw from personal experience, observation, or reading to support a position with specific reasons and examples. So basically, you are arguing a point where you are agreeing or disagreeing with a position that they're giving you, and you're going to argue that point with convincing evidence. You're using your own words to analyze the situation, and you are demonstrating through this essay that you have critical and analytical thinking in addition to your writing skills. This is just a kind of visual way to think about how to structure the argumentative essay. So you'll start out with a paragraph that's a brief introduction and thesis statement. If you're not familiar with what a thesis statement is, it's basically just a statement of your position, whether you're agreeing or disagreeing with the position that they're giving you. And we'll look at an example position here in a second. Then you're going to have body paragraphs that are going to support that thesis statement in your introduction that have examples and evidence in them. And then you'll have a short conclusion. This is going to be a fairly short essay because you're only going to be given 30 minutes to completely write an essay from scratch. So the essay is going to be fairly short. So an example prompt that you could be given is this. Minimum wage jobs are a ticket to nowhere. They are boring and repetitive and teach employees little or nothing of value. Minimum wage employers take advantage of people because they need a job. And then the instructions are going to be, discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with this opinion. Support your views with specific reasons and examples from your own evidence, observations, or reading. So when you get there on test day, the bottom part of the slide here where it says discuss the extent, that's going to be the same for everyone for the argumentative example prompt. What's going to be different is the position that they're going to be giving you. It's not going to be the minimum wage position. It's going to be something else, but it's always going to be an opinion about something. So you have to decide whether or not you want to agree with that opinion or disagree with that opinion. And you can do either. There's not a right or wrong answer here. They're just looking for your critical reasoning skills and being able to argue and support your position of agreeing or disagreeing. So remember, they're asking you to agree or disagree and have evidence to back that up. And I'm just going to pause here if there are any questions on that.
And I'm watching.
All right. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the other type of essay you're going to write, and then we're going to talk about strategies. The second type of essay that you will write is called a source-based essay. For the source-based essay, they're asking you to extract information from two provided sources to identify important concerns related to an issue. So they're looking for you to be able to sort through information, identify important concepts, and discuss importance. Synthesis is something that's important to do well here. Synthesis is where you take multiple different texts and you're able to put them together and talk about how they are similar and how they are different. So you'll be making connections, you'll be discussing relationships, and you'll be doing a little bit of comparing and contrasting because they're going to give you two different texts and it'll be on the same topic. So you'll have to decide how these sources are maybe agreeing, maybe disagreeing, maybe they're just taking a little bit of a different focus on different aspects of that topic. And again, they're looking that you can demonstrate critical and analytical thinking in your writing. And so similar to the argument essay, the directions are going to be exactly the same. And these are the directions. So what's going to be different every time are the two different sources, the two different texts that they're going to give you. And I'll have an example on the next slide. But the directions are in the following sections. In the following section, you will have 30 minutes to read two short passages on a topic and then plan and write an essay on that topic. The essay will be an informative essay based on the two sources that are provided. So they're going to give you two different sources on a topic, and your role as the writer is to inform someone on this issue using both of the sources that they give you. So there'll be two fairly short sources. And it's going to look like this. You'll have one on the left, one on the right. So you'll have to read through these within your 30 minutes and then compose your essay. And this comes from the PDF study guide that I mentioned at the beginning. And I'm going to pause here if there are any questions about the source-based essay or anything that I've talked about so far. Okay. All right, so how can you prepare for these essays? Read successful examples. Anytime you're encountering a new genre or a new type of writing that you're being asked to do, the first thing I always do is to read successful examples. So if I've never written something like a cover letter before or a resume, the first thing that I would want to do is get examples of a cover letter and a resume so I can see what's expected, what are the common moves in these? What makes a good one? So try to find as many successful examples as you can. There are several in the PDF study guide, and there's probably some other study materials online that you can find. And they're fairly short essays, so it should be fairly easy for you to read multiple different ones and see how different writers are approaching the tasks. And it's pretty formulaic as well, so, or it can be pretty formulaic to write a decent essay for these Praxis exams. So it should be, you should be able to see a lot of repetition in the examples. Practice. You're gonna have to practice. So someone asked about, you know, I'm thinking in Spanish and I would prefer to write in Spanish, but I'm going to have to write these in English. I think practicing will get you quicker at doing that for the essay exam because you do have that time limit of 30 minutes.
See, Cassie?
Yeah.
We do have a question. Someone wants to know if English language learners or second, you know, yes, English learners, can they request accommodation for extra time? Or do you know?
I don't know. I'm not an expert in Praxis. I'm just an expert in writing.
I believe you can, but I'll try to find that out and send you all an email.
I would be surprised if you couldn't get that accommodation, but I don't know for sure.
I agree.
Wanda, this is Jasmina.
Yes, yes.
I speak Spanish also, and I request accommodation. They give you half a time additional. But it's a process. They have to go to the website where the person gonna take the test, and they have to download all the paperwork. And somebody have to, some professional have to sign those papers and like to confirm that that person speaks Spanish or whatever first language is. And it's very easy. I did it myself for me also.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so you should definitely try to get that accommodation so you have the more time that you're going to need to translate into English. But that goes for everyone in terms of practicing. It's just going to only make you quicker on test day because you already are aware of the common directions that I talked about. Each prompt has the exact same instructions. It's just what you are going to be writing about that's going to be different. So you can go ahead and get started right away because you know what your process is going to be and how you're going to approach writing it, even though you don't know exactly what you're going to be writing about. So find some sample prompts online and practice writing. And we're going to be talking about how to approach that 30 minutes today. But you want to practice in the similar type of environment as you're going to be on test day. So when you're practicing, time yourself to the 30 minutes so you can see exactly what you can accomplish in that 30 minutes. So that means you're going to have to set aside 30 minutes to do some practice writing, but you know, if you're going to be studying for the test, then just build in that time into your Praxis study time. When you are finished with your practice writing, get some feedback and also reflect on your own writing. You can come to the Writing Center, like I said, ask a friend. There are a lot of people in today's workshop. Maybe one of them could help you study together and give you feedback on your writing. But I would ask about 3 areas of your writing in order to get feedback on. So organization is key. I think maybe it was Hope that talked about at the beginning, or maybe it was someone else, where, you know, how do I answer the question and it not just feel like I'm rambling? Well, I talked a little bit at the beginning about the expected organization of the argumentative essay. It should have an introduction where you introduce whether you're agreeing or disagreeing. Each paragraph should stick to one main idea, one main example that you're talking about, and then you should have some type of conclusion. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of getting feedback on your organization. What order are you presenting these ideas? Does it have an introduction, body, and conclusion? Is there a better way that you could maybe organize and introduce your audience to your ideas? The content. Are you actually saying what you want to say? Does your audience or whoever's giving you feedback, do they understand that you're taking a clear position on this issue? Are there places where they're a little bit confused or your point is a little bit muddy? And then your style and voice. How do you present your ideas on the sentence level? And again, all these 3 things are related, but you can ask the person who's giving you feedback to focus on them. So looking at the sentence level of your ideas, a lot of times in the Writing Center, we try to focus if there are repeated errors in your writing. So is there something that maybe you're using a word incorrectly or a semicolon incorrectly, and you keep doing that over and over? That's something that you want to be aware of so that the next time you write, you don't make that same mistake in your writing. And everyone's going to have maybe one-off things where they have a problem with it. We'll talk a little bit about proofreading here in a few minutes as one of the strategies. But when you're getting feedback from someone else, you really want to focus on if there's something that you're doing over and over, that's a repeated error. Okay, in terms of actually sitting down to write the essay, someone mentioned this earlier as a good strategy. Read the directions carefully. You can be prepared for this ahead of time because you are already going to know what the general instructions of the argumentative essay and the source-based essay are. But take at least a few minutes to make sure that you understand what the directions are on test day. Use some of your 30 minutes for planning. This is really key. So it will help your response have an organization. You want to read over the question, maybe do a little bit of brainstorming about what you could write about, especially for the argumentative essay. A lot of times I might make 2 lists for the argumentative essay. What could I write if I was agreeing with this statement? Because remember, you're being asked to either agree or disagree with this opinion they're giving you. What would my essay look like if I agreed with this statement? What would my essay look like if I disagreed with this statement? And it doesn't necessarily have to align with your personal opinion on things. No one is going to hold you to that. You just have to write an essay stating a position either way. So use some of your 30 minutes for planning. So you definitely, for the argumentative essay, want to decide whether you're going to agree or disagree with it before you actually start composing the essay. And do a little bit of outlining about what your different pieces of evidence or examples are going to be for backing up that opinion. Use words from the question in your response. So thinking back to the question that was about employers and employees, I would try to mimic the language in that question as much as possible. And the reason for that is the people who are evaluating these essays are reading through them extremely quickly, probably quicker than you've ever read anything in your life or I've ever read anything in my life. You don't want them to get confused or to trip over any of your words. So I wouldn't use something like employees and staff instead of employers and employees, because that's the language in the question. So that's just something that's simple to make sure that they're realizing that you're directly answering the question that they asked. And the other word that you would want to use in the argumentative one is agree or disagree, so that they can really clearly see whether you're agreeing or disagreeing with the prompt. State your claim in the argument essay. So like what I just said, you should state whether you agree or disagree with the opinion or the position that they're giving you, or your overall synthesis for the source-based essay in the first sentence of the paper. So your overall synthesis is going to be kind of an overview of whatever topic you're informing someone of, something like a summary statement. And by putting that in the first, I'm recommending the first sentence. It doesn't have to be. You might not see that in every example, but it just, again, gives your reader who's evaluating this a really easy flag to say, oh, okay, I know what this is going to be about. They're following the instructions. I would consider writing shorter paragraphs than you might normally write for something that's like academic writing, just because, again, they're going to be reading through these very quickly, and you want to make it as digestible as possible. And when I say shorter paragraphs, normally I think a paragraph needs to be at least 5 sentences. So maybe each of your paragraphs are around 5 sentences, but that's just kind of a rule of thumb guideline. It's not a hard and fast rule, but something to kind of give you a touch point. Use clear transitions and connections between ideas and paragraphs. And you probably want to be a little bit more heavy-handed about transitions than you might be in other academic writing. So even a transition like, my first example is blank. My second example is blank. So those type of guideposts for your reader so they can see exactly what you're doing in your writing. And I have a handout on transitions and connections between ideas, and I'll give that out at the end. If you think of a new idea as you're writing, stop and jot it down on your outline. So they are going to give you some scrap paper that you can use for the planning and brainstorming that I was talking about. But you are actually going to be typing in your essays into the computer. So, if you think of an idea as you're writing, stop and jot it down on your outline. And then when you go back to revise a little bit, then you can add that in, or maybe you realize you don't need it in your writing. Okay, so we've covered a little bit of pre-writing where you are planning your response, thinking about what you would include in it, and outlining. You do that before you're starting to compose. Then you're composing a rough first draft. So you're condensing the writing process into this really short 30 minutes. So you want to save some time for editing and proofreading. And this is why I'm saying that it's important to practice and time yourself, because you want to see about how long it's going to take you for each of these stages. So how long do you need to give yourself for planning? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 6 minutes? Is it 4 minutes? How long is it going to take you to compose a rough draft? Or how long does it normally take you to compose that first rough draft? And then how long do you need to make sure that you leave yourself for editing and proofreading? You know, it could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes for some of you.
Cassie, we have a question, which will we be writing the outlines on scrap paper or the response paper?
The outline is just for you, so that would just be on the scrap paper.
Thank you.
So you want to strive for clarity and focus in your writing. Someone's got their microphone on. It might be you, Wanda, but I'm getting some feedback.
It's not me. Oh, wait, I can mute people. Hold on. I just remembered I can do that, I think. Okay, I think everybody's muted.
Okay, yeah, that's better. Sorry, it's just really distracting.
No, I understand.
So you want to strive for clarity and focus in your writing. And the example here is handwritten, but again, you're going to be typing your essay. The best word isn't always the fanciest word. I wouldn't worry about using hyper intellectual sounding words. You want to sound like yourself. You want the person who's reading this to be able to understand it. It doesn't have to be the most complicated word in the world. I wouldn't necessarily worry about building up your vocabulary for these Praxis case essays. Again, help the essay evaluators to easily read and understand what you write. I don't have this up here, but whenever I edit and proofread myself, I always read it out loud. You are going to be in a room likely and potentially with other people, so you can't really read your writing out loud, but you could try to like silently read it out loud to yourself and imagine reading it to an audience. When I'm writing something and I'm just typing it for myself and I'm reading it in my head, I make a lot of mistakes in my writing. It isn't until I'm actually like giving my writing to someone and imagining that they're reading it, or I'm reading it out loud to someone, that I actually am able to give myself that little bit of distance from my writing where I can catch mistakes that I wouldn't normally think that I would make in my writing. So try to give yourself that little bit of distance by potentially reading it out loud, but at least give yourself some time to read over that first draft composed response so you can correct errors that you wouldn't normally think that you would make yourself. So save some time for that. And, you know, take out any words or maybe repetitive sentences where you're saying the same thing. So you don't want the essay evaluators to feel like you're repeating yourself over and over. So look for those types of things when you're editing and proofreading. Okay, I think at the beginning, some of the concerns people said, or whenever I asked them what they knew about the test or remembered about writing timed essays, it's going to feel like stressful and anxious. So this is another big component of preparing for test day. Make sure you give yourself enough time to study, because the more prepared you feel, the more confident you're going to feel that day. And so we've talked about strategies that you can use to prepare for test day. Get plenty of sleep, eat well, have a snack. You should be able to take they'll have like a planned break during the test where you can come out and get a snack. Make sure you use that break because it'll help your brain, give your brain a little moment of pause. Do some deep breathing during the test. Maybe you can get up and stretch, close your eyes for a moment if they're giving you, you know, a minute or two between the different modules.
Cassie, Hope has shared that there are no breaks.
There are no breaks? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe you pause a second yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're like giving you a second before you can like actually have to start the next test, whatever, you know, maybe you finish a little bit early with one of the exams, just take that time. Take whatever time that you can during the test. Some people also like to bring a good luck charm, you know, a necklace or something that is going to make them feel more confident that day. So every going to help, and the more comfortable and confident you feel that day, the better you're going to perform. I usually have like the same breakfast before a test. You know, I heard that like eggs and protein are really good for your brain. So I will always have that same breakfast before a test day, which I don't know if it helps or not, but it helps me psychologically. So something small like that. All right. So, oh, and use all of your time. That's
Hope, do you have your hand raised? Or do you have a question? I'm going to say that's a no.
all right. So then next thing that we're going to do is a little bit of practice. So I've talked about strategies, and what I want you to do is to implement those. So we're not going to take the full 30 minutes of writing a question, but I want you to take the first 10 minutes of your theoretically 30 minutes that you would have for a question like this. I want you to, in that 10-minute time, do a little bit of brainstorming, write a thesis statement, and remember that's the position that you're taking on the issue, and create an outline for the following argumentative prompt. So remember, there's two different types of essays that you're going to be writing. There's the argumentative one, and there's the source-based one. The argumentative one, you'll be given an opinion, and then you'll have the exact same instructions for responding to that opinion. So here's the opinion that I'm giving you today. Parents are not playing enough of a role in schools today. They need to be more involved in their children's education. That is why schools are not doing so well today. And your task is to discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with this opinion, support your views with specific reasons and examples from your own experience, observations, or reading. So for the 10 minutes, I'm asking you to brainstorm, write a thesis, and create an outline. So you're doing the pre-writing portion of this. You're not actually composing the essay. So it's 12:18, and at 12:28, we'll come back together and talk a little bit about how that went, what went well, what struggles you have. You've got about 1 more minute, so wrap up whatever you're writing or working on right now. And I unshared the PowerPoint since I think we've all got a sense of what you were being asked to do, so I can actually see your faces and see the chat maybe a little bit, but I might need Wanda's help.
Yeah, we don't have anything here right now.
You what?
I said there's nothing in the chat right now.
Yeah, I don't see it. Okay. I feel like I'm back in the loop by seeing everyone now, or some of the people here. Okay. So I'll need a couple people to share what went well with this exercise. Some of your successes.
Hi, my name is Marce. It's been fun. Thank you very much, Cassandra.
Okay.
I love the prompt, but my handwriting is horrible. So they're going to be reading my handwriting.
Oh, you're going to be typing it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. When I reread it, something that I felt is that it seemed that I was going off track with the prompt. My position was that I agree that parents need to be more connected in their children's education. But from my perspective and my point of view with English learners, parents sometimes they don't know how to do it. And they feel that, they have nothing to contribute. But once a parent knows how to do it and it's empowered to it, then it makes a difference. And I included here that I can recall a Twitter story when an Arabic parent with limited English came to a classroom and read to the whole class in Arabic. The kids in the class were impressed of how other languages sound. The students also that spoke another language felt more accepted, and the parent got motivated to be more participative in the education, and other children went home and invited their parents to come to school or to read them stories at night and bedtime, because this mom did that to their children, even if it was in Arabic. So then I kind of felt that I was going off track because the prompt was parents do not participate enough. So I kind of brought it back with a conclusion. And I put here that when we empower parents to share what they have to offer, we foster a culture of inclusivity, and and then schools will do better because parents will be more willing and capable of being involved in their children's education. So I don't know if that bringing back was good enough. I mean, for 10 minutes, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think everything that you said made a lot of sense. I think you had a really good example, a really clear example. One way of writing your essay might be to kind of break down one example into different parts. Like you just gave one example. I think that's okay to have one example in your essay. You might also have multiple like shorter examples in the essay too. I think it's important to make sure that you are clearly agreeing or disagreeing with what they're telling you. So let's see. If your idea was that it seemed like you agreed that parents are not playing enough of a role, where you are kind of disagreeing is kind of an unstated premise of this, is that parents don't want to participate. So you might be clear about that. So you agree with the statement, but you disagree that parents don't want to play a role. And then your example would back up that. So I think the key in the introduction is being clear about whether you're agreeing or disagreeing, and then making sure that the example that you give is a clear, it exemplifies exactly what your thesis is stating, and it's not ambiguous at all.
I have a question, Cassie. It's Wanda, and Brenda's got her hand up, and I don't know if she does have a question, maybe. But would it be safe to say you could start out with "I agree that" or "I disagree with," and then put the wording from that would be a good first sentence?
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely think that that's a good approach, just to start out. I agree that blah blah blah.
Right. Okay, Brenda, do you have a question? And you're muted. There you go.
Just a statement that I think brainstorming is the key to any essay, and that's what helped me.
Great. Do you want to share what you decided to write about, or?
Well, I started out with parents are not providing enough support for their children toward their education. I agree children in the schools would be more successful if parents would contribute. And that was my opening statement.
Yeah.
And then in the brainstorm, I had 3 examples. One was no answer when called parents, no signatures in their agendas, and children failed to return or do their homework. That was in my brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
So that was examples.
Yeah, I think those are great examples. You might not even need all of those or have time to write about all of those. So you might, in your brainstorm, circle the ones that you have the most to say about, or you think are the most strong, the strongest examples. But actually practicing writing it out will give you a sense of, how much time you're going to have and how many examples you're going to be able to write about.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Letitia has her hand up. Do you have a question, or are you just waving? Just kidding.
I do have a question. I don't know if I got off topic or if the evidence that I used would be sufficient. When I was writing, I felt like toward the end I was off topic. I'm like, does this even matter? But it's short, so can I read to you what I wrote so I can know if it's okay or if I need to do something else?
Sure. I'll say I'm not the best at processing just by listening, but I'll do my very best.
Well, maybe I can just tell you what I wrote. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I disagree with, it's short, I'll just read it. Okay, so I said I disagree. I think that parents play a sufficient role in schools today. Some parents are a part of the PTA, some have to work more and can't be physically in the schools, but make consistent phone calls and emails, contribute their dollars to fundraisers, and even volunteer for chaperone field trips when the opportunity presents itself. I personally think that teachers don't spend time in the homes of the students. As educators, it's our job to build relationships with the students and parents, even if that means becoming acclimated with the family's neighborhood. I think that teachers can spend more time in the homes of the students. However, parents spend enough time in the schools. Did I get off subject?
Slightly.
Okay.
But I have a suggestion. So it seemed like you started out by saying you disagree, and then you listed several different reasons why, like examples. Yeah. So you should, elaborate. You should elaborate on a few of those examples in your essay. That's what they're going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for that you disagree, and then elaborating on examples of why and in which context you disagree, and then when you started talking about what teachers can do, I think that would be a really good in your conclusion, but it shouldn't be like the actual like central part of your essay.
Okay.
So you shouldn't be solving these problems that they're giving you. They're just asking whether you agree or disagree, but it's okay, I think, in your conclusion to have like one sentence like, you know, even though this is a problem, teachers can help solve it by blah, blah, blah. That's just kind of like adding a little additional thought in your conclusion. But they're really going to be looking at whether or not you disagree, and then some examples that you're drawing out about why.
Okay. Thank you.
Yasmina, do you have your hand raised? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was mute. Yeah, I have written some just brainstorm, and I wanna know if that is right. I can be off. I have written the main idea, which is in today's economy, both parents have to work to provide their children with their needs. And then I have two examples why. And one example would be because parents work Monday to Friday, 5 to 9 usually. And the second example would be school schedule are not available after 5 p.m. And the other example is because parent-teaching conference actually is on weekdays, no weekends. And then I guess I have to develop each idea, right?
Yes.
I don't know if that is correct.
So are you agreeing or disagreeing with the statement?
I'm agree.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you state clearly at the beginning, I agree that parents aren't playing enough of a role because parents can't play a role based on scheduling. That would be a type of thesis that encompasses all of those different examples that you gave. And then you could go in with exactly how you just started, but just being clear at the beginning about whether you're agreeing or disagreeing and giving that general sense of what you're going to talk about in your essay. And it sounded a lot like you're going to be talking about scheduling. So that narrows down your essay, and then you can talk about each of those examples related to the barriers of scheduling engagement with parents.
Okay.
I think that's great.
Thank you.
Sure. You all are giving each other lots of great ideas and examples about how you can approach this exact same prompt in lots of different ways. And I think also another strategy could be to kind of narrow the context, because this is a very general statement, the idea of schools. Like, there are tons of different kinds of schools and different places that schools can be. So one way that you might make it a little bit more easier to digest is to narrow it down and to disagree with such a generalizing statement that they're just making this like very broad assumption about this. But I really like the ways that you all have decided to agree with the statement and again, show that there's no right or wrong answer to this. You just have to be able to decide on a position and then back it up with examples and evidence. And I always just try to write about whatever is going to be the easiest for me to write about in this circumstance. And sometimes I think it's easier almost to disagree with things, just to like come out like antagonistically against it. But again, you all picked some really great ways to agree with it too. But so just whatever seems to work for you for this type of this question here. Anybody else have any other questions or observations about this exercise that we just did?
Actually, this is Hope. I actually wanted to go ahead and kind of say mine because I tend to most of the time get off subject or just kind of ramble. So just by the few tips that we've had this morning, first of all, I've taken this and I did not make an outline the first time.
You cut out just a second.
I'm hoping she'll be back. I'm guessing something.
She's been
Can you
participating.
guys hear me?
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Hi,
said
sorry.
you cut out when you said the last time you didn't write an outline. So,
Are you there, Hope?
Yes, I think I'm having a small connection issue. Sorry, guys.
you're fine. Is there anything you can put in the chat, or you think you're back?
I think I'm back.
Okay.
So I pretty much just said for my introduction that I agree, and that parents play a large role in children's education. And then I just pretty much argued that with the hours they are in school versus the hours they are with the parents. And then alongside that, I said that making more efforts with the students, the parent-student efforts, and helping the teachers by working together with them. And then I did my conclusion. If these things are all done, students can be more successful, and schools can then work more effectively.
Okay. So were you agreeing that parents are not playing enough of a role, or are you agreeing that parents should be playing more of a role?
Agreeing that parents should play more of a role.
Okay. So sorry, I had a little bit trouble following that since it was just bullet points. Okay, so you're agreeing with the statement parents are not playing enough of a role. They should be more involved. And then your examples were, you said the first one was that the amount of time spent with parents versus school. So what would you write about that?
Just saying that if the parents are more involved with the teacher, just like making sure things are getting done, like homework, or if we call or if something is concerning, that the parent is like on top of whatever needs to be done, like home-wise, because like teaching is not just always inside the classroom, but also like it's broader. You have to take it home too. And then if we can work more effectively to do those things, and working with the teacher is how those tasks get done.
Okay. I think that makes sense. It sounds like you were focused mainly on the second sentence. They need to be more involved in their children's education and how. I think just be careful that you're not focusing only on that one part of the prompt, and you're focusing on the agreeing with all of it. So instead of just launching off that second part about how they need to be more involved, make sure that you're agreeing with the other parts that say, explain why they're not playing enough of a role in education too.
Gotcha. Okay.
And sorry if I didn't 100% follow all of that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All right.
You have to press the button again to lower your hand, or everybody's hand will stay up.
All right, I'm gonna try to share my screen again to do my last couple slides. There we go. Thank you all so much for sharing and showing us kind of where your thinking is here. Before I forget, I want to make sure that I thank you all for participating again. And I didn't mention when I was talking about the Writing Center how to approach us for questions about the Praxis case. Most of the writing consultants that work in the Writing Center are graduate students. They're all graduate students, but most of them probably haven't taken the Praxis case, but they probably have taken the GRE. So you do need to bring in some of the materials or attach those to your appointment or bring them into the live chat appointment so we know what we're working with. Because as soon as we know that it's an argumentative essay or a source-based essay, and we're looking at materials like that study guide, we'll be able to really quickly help you, but you have to give us that context. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. Does anybody have any questions before I hold on? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it told me my microphone was muted. Panicked for a second, like, wow, that must have been really quiet for a long time.
Did you raise your hand? I know there's people's hands raised, and I know that we forget to take them down, but if you all have a question, just kind of chime in or write it, because I'm confused on who has a question now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have a
you don't have
question.
to raise your hand. You can just ask or put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I kind of noticed that most of us were driven to kind of solve the prompt rather than elaborate on why we disagree. And you kind of mentioned that that's not the point. It's if you agree, then you put all the points you agree, or if you disagree, you put all the points that you disagree. But each one of us is like, we agree or we disagree because we're not doing or we're doing this. So even if we make that mistake, but we're doing it in a way that we're showing that we are kind of demonstrating analytical skills, and we have an opening statement and all that, will that count against, or will that still be okay?
If it was me, I really like how you put that. Like, you wanted to solve the problem. I would step back from solving the problem and maybe put a little bit of that in the conclusion. Like I suggested, somebody asked about that, or had that in their example. I would focus on agreeing or disagreeing with the actual opinion that they're giving you. And if you want to try to think about solving it, then wait until like one sentence of your conclusion, because I think that it probably will be counted against you. But you can look at some of the successful examples. I mean, they'll give you a prompt, and then they'll give you like a really weak example, and then they'll give you like a strong example. You know, you're going to get scored like 1 through 6 or something on these essays, and they'll give you an example of each one of those responses for each of the scores. So you can see what some of the stronger ones are doing if they're tending towards solving, but I would think that that's not what they're wanting you to do. Which is why it's helpful, I think, to narrow down the contexts from something like schools to, you know, even grade schools or high schools or something like that. You know, you disagree because in high school, something.
Cassie, we have seveul questions in the chat box.
Yeah,
so
I can see them.
You can see them. Okay, good.
So someone has a question about the length. I would just refer you to the examples on that. A comment on how the layout works. Hope, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I heard a few things just while we were in this session. When you go to take the Praxis in person, depending on which one you're taking, if you're going to take the combined one, you're pretty much going to sit there and you pretty much just take all those tests back to back. There's no set break in the test. Like some tests, you know, you get that 15-minute period where you can go use the restroom and all of those things. With the Praxis, you just sit and you take them all back to back. And I'm not trying to say it to like scare anyone, but I kind of wish I would have known before going in what I was cut out to do and everything. Also, I heard you say that like your favorite necklace or favorite pencil. Unfortunately, you can't have any of that. You can't come with any of your jewelry on unless it's a wedding band or a religious kind of material or jewelry or anything like that. You can't use your own pencils. You get a blank booklet to write on, but you can't. They give you all those materials. You got to lock all your stuff away, and you sit in a cube. And then it's just you and the computer, the pencils they give you and the booklet that they give you. And you kind of pretty much just take that test straight through. There is time where you're switching in between tests if you're taking the combined test, where it's going from like math to reading or writing. At that time, I did raise my hand because I had to use the restroom. They will let you go, but that is your time still.
Wow.
So pretty much when you go in there, just be prepared to, especially if you're doing the combine all three at one time, you'll sit there, you'll do all those tests, and that's how that runs. And you can't have absolutely anything. And I know right now with the COVID going on, it's at home, and I'm not sure how they do that, but I do know if you do it at home, you do have to have a camera, and it's a person with you, according to what I read. It's a person with you that pretty much just kind of watches you take the test. And you know, of course, they can't like monitor your paper or anything like that, but you pretty much just have to be pretty straightforward, real honest about it, sit there, take your own test.
All right, thanks, Hope. Yeah, I have never taken the Praxis. I'm from the Writing Center, so I'm not, you know, today's workshop's not about like the Praxis overall, just mainly about focusing on the 2 writing prompts. So appreciate that perspective. Just looking at the questions over here. Is the source-based essay informing the reader about the issue presented in the 2 prompts? Yes. There will be 2 texts that are you're given side by side, and then you're supposed to take these 2 texts and make basically 1 text that you're writing out of them. So you're informing the reader. And one suggestion on that is to imagine an actual audience. So who might you need to inform on this issue? Why might someone need to be informed about this issue? Someone asked about how the writing test at home is. I don't know about that, but Hope gave a little bit of insight. Where can we find those good examples? On one of the slides in the PowerPoint that I'm going to give you, there's a link to the study guide from ETS, and they have good examples in there of each of the different essays. And then the last 2 questions are about taking the test online or in the testing center. And I don't know what the current situation is with testing centers or testing online. So, but I'm sure it's on the ETS website for, what the options are. I'm going to put the PowerPoint in the chat. I do need to convert it quickly to a PDF, but I'll put it in the chat. And then Sherry is going to put it on the website as well and potentially email it out to everyone. So you should be able to access it. And I'm going to.
So while you're doing that, Cassie, let me just tell everybody, and you might know this, Indiana has done away with the Praxis case, meaning the state has said it's no longer required. That does not mean that each district has done away with it. We are extremely hopeful that the state of Kentucky will recognize that this is a barrier for many teachers. And so try not to sweat it is what I'm trying to tell you. Do the very best that you can. It's not the end of your career if we don't pull it off, because we're fighting for that. Okay, we're fighting for that. So I know some people get really anxious on tests. And I can tell you right now, if you give me a deadline, like I've got 30 minutes, my brain shuts down in the beginning because you put a time limit on me. So just do the best that you can. You know, practice, study, do the best that you can.
Thanks.
All right. So I put the 2 resources in the chat, and then there's also embedded resources within the PDF. That's the PowerPoint, or the PowerPoint PDF. So I just wanted to briefly overview. So there's a wise words handout, which what I want you to focus on with that is the bottom part that gives examples of transition words, because remember, it's, you know, you want to give your readers easy access to your ideas. So your first example is this. Next, I'm going to talk about blah, blah, blah. Those types of transitions, heavy-handed ones, can be helpful. On the Writing Center's website, we have a couple responses to frequently asked questions about writing that relate to the type of writing you're doing here. How do I write an essay that makes an argument? How can I revise my draft if it doesn't seem to flow? And then we have 2 resources on writing with sources. So there's a video on quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing, and then there's a PDF handout on quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. And you'll need those skills to do the writing with sources one. And then on our website, we also have a page with all of our handouts, but specifically under style and usage. You might want to check out the ones on active voice, parallelism, and commas and semicolons, if those are things that you might struggle with. I thought those might be things that you would want to use well in these essays. All right, and I think those of you who are joining as guests and not as from a U of L student, faculty, or staff account, I've heard that you might have trouble getting the files that I put in the chat, but that's why that Sherry's going to put them on the website and also, I think, email them out. So you should ask. Yeah, somebody just added that as a comment too. But she warned me about this ahead of time. So she'll make sure that you get it, and we're putting them in lots of different places. So. And that's all I have for you all today. And thank you for coming. Thank you all for participating. This was fun for me. Hopefully you learned something from it. And I wish you the best of luck on taking your test. And I know Wanda said there's a lot of anxiety around it right now, but I hope that everything all works out and you get into the programs and take the steps in your career that you're wanting to take. So.
Thank you all. And if you have any questions, let Sherry know, and she can get in touch with either me or Cassie, so it's all good.
Yeah.
All right, and if you need to, if you don't hear, email Sherry, because it could be we don't have your email address or something, but we will get this out in the next few days.
Should you put Sherry's email address in the chat? So
I'm going to say it's Sherry.Durham, but let's go there. SHERRY DURHAM @Louisville.edu. Yeah, she's going to add this to the website. We'll make sure that you all get the resources. If you don't, and it's, a week from now, hit us back. That means something happened and you got lost, because we have listservs, but everyone's on a different listserv. So, yes, I probably do, Hope. Can you write it in there? Do you care? If not, you can send it to me at wanda.walcott. So WANDA.WOLCOTT @Louisville.edu. Okay, great. All right, I think that's it, Cassie. That's okay. You don't have to download the documents. We're going to send them to you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Hope. Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Let me turn this off.
Hey, Wanda, are you still on? Oh, I lost her.